So welcome everyone to today's interesting and wonderful section. Welcome everyone to today's interesting and wonderful section. Welcome everyone to today's interesting and wonderful section. Please let's start joining. Let's start joining as we go live in today's interesting section. Let's start joining as we go live into this interesting section. So waiting for others that are yet to actually connect live with us. Waiting for others that are yet to actually connect live with us. Waiting for others to actually connect live so that we can go live in this interesting section that we are going to be looking at in the course of today's discussion. So today we'll be looking at this basic discussion. Today we'll be looking at the market analysis, and also apart from looking at the market analysis, we'll go ahead to look at how to actually mine the Bitcoin market. Also be looking deep into the Bitcoin market. How can we actually go about mining the Bitcoin market when looking at it on the real sense? And also all those points are what we'll be looking at in the course of today's section. So if you're ready to start today's section, please you can actually comment on the chat box so that we can go live today in today's section. Oh, today is actually Sunday. Yeah, today is actually Sunday. Yeah, the first Sunday of the Ember month, the first Sunday of the Ember month. I believe you guys are actually doing well, and you guys are taking things as gradually. You guys are taking things gradually. Things are actually going well for you at your end over there, wherever you are currently. So thank you everyone for actually. So let's keep joining as we go live in today's section. Please, along today's section, if you have any question whatsoever, you are free to ask. Good morning, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Please, if you have any question in the course of today's section, you're free to ask on the chat box, in which justice is going to be done as we move ahead in the course of today's section. Please, if you have any question whatsoever in the course of today's section, please you can actually do well by asking on the chat box, in which justice is going to be done as we move ahead. And also, if you are yet to follow my profile and you're listening to me, please kindly do follow my profile so that wherever I'm live, you will be signified whenever I'm live, and you'll miss out on any section as we keep moving forward in the course of today's section. So if you're listening to me and you get to follow my profile, please kindly do follow my profile as we move ahead in the course of today's section. Now, one thing we need to know, looking at the market himself. Now you can see the market. Now, one thing I've actually noticed in the market currently is that now the top Bitcoin whales set 3-year record, 3-year record, another one. Now, what do we actually mean by 3-year record? Another. Now, why Bitcoin? Why fear of the return of the cryptocurrency market? The categories of the Bitcoin orders continue to increase in dominance. However, they are even uncertain about the next step of the largest cryptocurrency price dynamic. Now, the fact that now the fear of cryptocurrency, a lot of people, and looking at the market themselves, looking at how the market has been moving, a lot of people are actually having kind of skeptical about the way the market is going. And even though looking at a lot of people are actually looking at the categories of the largest, looking at the Bitcoin market as looking at the largest cryptocurrency, and it actually has the largest orders. People actually, a large number of people are actually keying into Bitcoin, trying to buy Bitcoin for their transaction and all that. And it has actually continued to increase as dominant in dominancy, trying to gain more dominancy, trying to gain more strength in the market over time, which is also, I would actually say, is also very important, and it's actually great when looking at the market and so looking at what is actually going on in the market, all these factors in the market. All those points are actually very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market, when looking at what is actually happening in the market, and all these factors are actually very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market currently and all that. Now, however, there has even been a very uncertain. The market has actually been uncertain on the next step for the price for the currency cryptocurrency price dynamic and now what do we actually mean by that? Now looking at the market currently, a lot of uncertainty about the market, because looking at the Bitcoin market, looking at the areas in which has been moving, looking at the ETF, looking at the SEC issue, looking at, even though one thing I've noticed, a lot of withdrawal, there's actually been a lot of withdrawal in the market, even though okay, we predict that the market is going to push, market is going to go high and other. But one thing we've actually noticed is that there's been a lot of withdrawal in the market over time when looking at the market, when looking at how the market has been moving and all that. So all these are actually all these are actually very important that we need to take note of. Now looking at the market currently, the market currently is currently at 895, in which I actually predicted this yesterday. If you listen to my, if you joined my section yesterday, you will notice when I actually predicted this market that we are likely going to see there's the categories of the largest Bitcoin holders continues to increase in dominance when looking at it. Now, one point, these are all important. Now, if you check my yesterday, if you go back to listen to my yesterday's section, you will remember when you will notice when I actually talked about the market and stuff, how the market has been going, what are the various facts we need to understand when looking at the market, when looking at areas in which we need to understand when looking at the market movement, and all these factors are actually very important. And looking at the Bitcoin now, looking at the Bitcoin is actually one of the largest cryptocurrency in the market, or like cryptocurrency hold as kind of the largest cryptocurrency holders in the market. And apart from that, it's actually still gaining more dominance. Now it's gaining more dominance. Looking at the market itself, we notice that okay, there's actually been a lot of the price, there's a lot of volatility in the market. The market is very uncertain about the next future price of how the market is going to go, what is actually really happening in the market. But there are some basic factors that we need to actually understand when looking at the market, even though the fact that we know that okay, the market is very uncertain and we don't know actually what is the next step of the market and other. Now, if you notice the Bitcoin market, based on my research, I actually noticed that the Bitcoin market has actually has a kind of the largest withdrawal for the kind of consecutive 3 months. Now we've seen a lot of it has actually surpassed withdrawal actually surpassed deposit for the past consecutive months. Now look at what I'm actually talking about here. Let me bring this up. Now you can see it here. Based on this chart here, you will notice that withdrawal, there's actually been a lot of withdrawal in the market for the past three consecutive months. That means let me just use okay from this area, even though from this area here, you can see from April, looking at this withdrawal here throughout this area, looking at just the buy and order. So the deposit in the market is actually more than the withdrawal in the withdrawal in the market is actually more than the deposit in the market over. So this is actually causing uncertainty. A lot of people are actually having kind of where I use the word doubt, if I'm correct. Now a lot of people are actually having doubts of saying okay, what is now the movement, what is now okay, what is wrong with the market, why is it that people are not actually investing in the market, but instead of investing, a lot of people are actually withdrawing funds from the market. All these points are actually very important. We need to actually take note of all these factors when looking at the market or when trying to understand how the market. Now is it certain that okay, the Bitcoin, looking at the Bitcoin halving coming on board, looking at all these factors, now is it certain that okay, we're actually going to get to where we're actually looking for when looking at the market movement and all that? Because now looking at the market movement, looking at okay, there's actually been a lot of withdrawals in the market. Instead, a lot of people, investors should actually, and we actually said that okay, investors is actually going to, a lot of investors are actually coming into the ecosystem to actually invest and all that. So now who is now making this withdrawal in the market? Because how can now remember it's all about demand and supply, inflow and outflow of money. Now if there is money in the ecosystem, that is what we actually sustain the ecosystem. But if there is constant withdrawal in the ecosystem, we might not likely see what we want, what we are actually expecting in a longer term and other. So all these points are actually very important that we need to actually take note of when looking at the Bitcoin market. What is actually happening in the market? What are the what are the important points that we need to take note of? Now one fact also that we need to understand that the net count on the on-chain Bitcoin address holding is minimum of 10 Bitcoin each, as which is maximum since 2000 and since 2020. It is important. It is an important metric to wave driven accumulation registered in 3 years. When looking at the 3 years, looking at the Bitcoin market, looking at how people have actually been holding the Bitcoin market over time and others. So all these are actually very, very important that we need to actually take note of when looking at and also looking at the ember month, looking at this month right now, you can say the Bitcoin market has actually entered. Are we going to say the Bitcoin market has actually been bloody? Because looking at the Bitcoin market in this month, looking at it, you can see it actually started with red. You can see the month actually started with red. If right, the month actually started with red. You can see the market being red all through. It's just giving a great sign a little bit here and other. So all these points now, if I bring my chart back here, now this was actually my prediction I did. Yes, this chart was what made the prediction market I actually did yesterday. My prediction price about the market, how the market is actually going to go. And you see, likely it's actually played the way I actually expected it. Now I said it's actually going to come down here. Then we're actually still going to see a little bit of push in the market. Then it will still come down because I'm actually expecting the market to come down to around 23 thereabout, 23 22 thereabouts in the market. That is what I'm actually saying the market come. But one thing, this bear period that we're actually noticing in the month, this ember month, won't actually last long because of what is actually, I'm actually seeing the market being productive in a long term. And you know that it's actually been a lot of people are actually holding back, and a lot of people are actually scared in the market, looking at the fact that even though looking at the ETF issue, well, the ETF, the Bitcoin ETF actually won their case in the court, but the SEC is actually holding down to some decisions and all that, which is actually causing a lot of people to actually don't. A lot of people are actually skeptical, trying to observe what is actually happening next in the market. So just stay tuned. Immediately, they've actually given full approval of the spot ETF and all that. Now you will see the market will actually push. But before there, I'm actually expecting the market to actually come down to around this area 23 thereabout in the market. This move was actually, I predicted this move that is actually going to come up and get to this area here. Then we'll actually see a little bit of move before we see it coming down again to 23 thereabout. Well, the one thing about the market is that you can't be actually, that is why the Bitcoin market, the way the Bitcoin market is, you can't actually be certain about how the market is actually going to move. What is actually going to be the next plan of the Bitcoin market? You can't actually be certain on what the market is actually going to go, or the areas in which the market is actually going to move in the longer term. And that is why it is very, very important that we study the market, that you take note of all these important points when looking at. Remember, we're going to be talking about data analysis, the market analysis, what is actually happening in the market, and also we will also go ahead to look at how to actually mine the Bitcoin market. Now, remember, the Bitcoin market is still in the proof of work stage, in which the Ethereum actually moved from the proof of work to the proof of stake and other, which is the market. So and it has to do with mining and other. That is really why we are actually going to be having Alvin next the coming. We are actually expecting Alvin to be coming on board towards the ending of 2024. Now towards the ending of 2024, based on my own view, I'm actually expecting Alvin to come up because of what has actually happening, what has been happening in the market so far. And I actually I've actually told you guys before that this has actually been one of the longest bear period when looking at the market. This has actually been one of the longest bear period when looking at the market movement. What is actually happening in the market? What are the various factors that is very, very important when looking at the market? And this has actually been one of the longest bear period when looking at the market. So it is but it's actually very, very important that we understand some basic factors when looking at the market. It's very, very important that we understand some very, very important information when looking at the market movement. How is the market moving? What are the areas of interest in the market? How can you actually key into the market? I know that is very, very important that we take note of that we take note of all this important conversation. Now let's move ahead to, before we actually come back to get more information about the market and how the market is moving. Now remember, I actually remember yesterday that I actually predicted this move that we're actually seeing here in the market, that I said okay, that is actually going to come to this area here, then push down to this area. Now remember, I said that the market has actually been, as the ember month actually started in a kind of a bear move. Based on what we're actually noticing here, the bear market actually is actually starting in a bear move. That is why we notice this move down here, and it's actually pushed up. I'm actually still expecting the market to actually still break and come to this area here around 23,500 thereabouts in the market, in order to see what next is actually going to be happening in the market. And also you should be actually be careful of the news factor, because the news factor actually has its own role to play when looking at the market movement, what is actually happening in the market, and that all these points are actually very all these points are actually very, very important. Looking at yesterday, day before yesterday that the month started, looking at yesterday, looking at today, you notice that the market, the ember month actually started in a kind of a bloody area. Well, is it going to end in a bloody area? Let's keep looking and see how the market is actually going in subsequent days to come. So all these points are actually very, very important, that we need to actually all these points are actually very, very important, that we need to actually take note of when looking at the market, or when trying to get a area in which the market is actually going. What are the points of information that we need to take note of when looking at the market movement and others? So please and please, if you're following me, if you're listening to me and you're yet to actually follow my profile, please can you do follow my profile, so that whenever I'm live, you will be signified like whenever I'm live, so that you won't miss out on any section as we keep moving ahead. Now look at the market. Are we like still going to see the market gets to around it's 30,000 as before the month end, or we're still going to see it comes down to 23? Now I still believe that the market is still going to come down, because it needs to actually get a kind of a position for it to actually push. The market needs to actually get a very good position, but for it to actually push. But if there's actually a reason for me saying that, but if the ETF application is actually very, very successful, we might see the market overturn. Now we might see a kind of a change in market. You can say a form of a change in market if the ETF application, that is the Bitcoin Exchange Trading Fund, that is ETF, if it's actually successful, if the SEC actually gives them the go ahead, there is no actually any delay anymore, because there's actually a bit of delay in the market when looking at the SEC and other. Even though they actually won in court, they've actually bring another application into the courtroom and other. So all this, and if that happens, before the ember month, we'll actually see the market retracing back. We might actually see the likes of 28 coming on board. The 28,000 coming on board, 30,000, maybe hopefully, if looking at the market and other. But I'm still looking at the market, still coming now up to 23 thereabouts in the market, probably 23,500 thereabouts in the market as the days goes by. So all these points are actually very, very important, that we need to actually take note of. It is very, very important that we need to take note of all these factors when looking at the market movement. What is the market actually talking about? How can we actually take control of the market? And that is very, very important that we understand all those basic points are actually very, very important, that we need to understand, that we need to take note of when looking at the market movement. What is actually happening in the market? How can we really take control of the market? And now the Bitcoin price actually fails to own its gain as reaching because when it got to that around 28, it actually fails to actually regain that strength and know that over the victory. Now looking at the victory of the US, looking at the US State Security Exchange, that is the SEC and all that. Even though just that short time in which they actually won and called the Bitcoin, you can see they moved in the market and all that. And we can see after that, you can see the market actually now came down to 23,000, 25,000 thereabouts in the market and all that. But the Bitcoin Bitcoin market is actually slightly recovering. Now you can see the Bitcoin market is actually slightly recovering to 25,000. Currently, is actually recovering back to 25,880.98 in the market. And now, could this actually mean that okay, the market is actually coming? Is it a sign in the market? And that these are a lot of questions surrounding the market and what is actually happening in the market. And that now there are some factors that we must actually determine on the next trend. There are some factors that we must actually consider when talking about the next trend of the market. What is the market really talking about? How can we actually go about? What are the market? Is it like it goes to 23,000, 24,000 in the market, or it comes up to 30,000 in the market? So either ways, let's keep observing how the market is actually going to come on board as we keep pushing forward in the course of the. So it is very, very important that we understand what is actually happening in the market. So this month I actually prefer you just let's just observe what is actually happening in the market. Let's observe how the market is actually. I'm not looking at from 2017 in the market to 2020. After that, we'll actually see a little bit of green. So probably this ember month we might actually see the market coming down to around 23,000. Actually be happening in the market. Looking at from 2017 from 2017 that the market has been moving. Looking at from 2017, not 2016, the market did actually follow the Bitcoin, the way the Bitcoin actually moved. But looking at from 2017 to 2022, the market has actually been consecutively red on the ember months when looking at. So it is very, very important that we understand this factor. That is why I said that now you understanding what is actually previous news now. Okay, so that was last year. Now, how does the past information actually affect it? Now, it actually has a very good effect on the market because it gives you an headway on what you should expect next in the market. What are the important points? What should you actually expect next in the market? What is the next line of information when looking at the market movement and all that? That is all these points are actually very, very important that we need to actually take note of when looking at the market movement. What is the market really saying? How can we actually take control of the market when looking at it? It is very, very important that we take note of all these factors when talking about the market movement, what is actually happening in the market and all that. So it is very, very important that we take note of all these points when looking at the market. Please, if you're following me, if you're listening to me, please kindly type it on the chat box so that I'll know you guys are with me as we keep moving forward in the course of today's session. Please, if you're yet to follow my profile and you are listening to me, please kindly do follow my profile so that whenever I'm live, you will be signified like whenever I'm live. That and also so all these points are actually very, very important that we need to actually take note of when looking at the market and when looking at the market movement and what is actually happening in the market. What are the areas of interest when looking at the market and other? Looking at the past, looking at what has actually happened before in the market, looking at how the market has actually been moving in the previous years before. So are we still going to see the market still going to still being in that area of interest in which in which the market is actually going to be holding himself for a particular period of time, looking at the market movement? And are we still going to be seeing that when looking at the market? Well, we can't actually say if the market is actually still going to hold that positioning from 2017 to 2022, and now we're in 2023 now, because now once that might actually make it possible, because now this has actually been one of the longest bear period that we've noticed in the market. And also in the average return, Bitcoin in September historically has been around 6%, -6% when looking at it. So it is very, very unpredictable. It's very, very unpredictable in which you can actually predict how the price is actually going to go and all that. I remember that and all that, and also it has actually decreased by 7% when looking at the market's movement and all that. When looking at by 6% when looking at the market movement and all that. So it is very, very important that, and also remember also that the pre-halving year, that is was 20, looking at pre-halving year 2016, sorry, 2019 and all that, and also looking at before then that the Bitcoin actually dropped in September. That was 14% when looking at the market. And also we might actually see going to see the market actually reach 22,000, 23,000 as the markets keep going. So it is very, very important that we understand all these factors. All those factors are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market movement. What are the important areas we need to take note of when looking at the market and all that? Is very, very very important that we understand all those factors when looking at the market, when looking at the areas of interest in the Bitcoin market. So let's move on to look into. We've actually given a little bit of analysis about the Bitcoin market, what is currently going on in the Bitcoin market. Well, if you have any project whatsoever that you of your interest that you want us to actually analyze, you want us to look into, please you can actually share it on the chat box, in which we will actually look at it as we keep moving forward in the course of the session. We'll be live again tomorrow. Subsequently, we'll be live for more interesting conversation to share more deeper knowledge, more deeper insights about the market, what we need to take note of the market, what are the various information that we need to know when looking at the market himself and others. So let's move ahead to look into the let's move ahead to look into how the mining how to actually mine the Bitcoin market. Let's move ahead to look into how to actually mine the Bitcoin market. That is the next point that we will be looking at in the course of today's session. Please, I believe you guys are ready to ride on with us as we move ahead in the course. Now we'll be looking at the various points we'll be looking at in the course of this section right now is how does Bitcoin mining, what is actually Bitcoin mining? That is the first question that we actually need to ask. If you understand what Bitcoin mining is all about, you can actually type it on the chat box. Let me hear your own view about what Bitcoin mining is actually really all about. And also we go ahead to talk about what do we need to mine when talking about what do you need to mine Bitcoin? What are the tools that is actually needed when talking about mining Bitcoin? Also looking at 2023, looking at the halving coming on board, is this still the right time to actually go ahead to say, okay, I want to mine Bitcoin, I need the facility to mine, I need what we have. Also we have what we call Bitcoin farming. We have a lot to talk about when talking about Bitcoin mining and all that. And so is it actually going to last? Now looking at, okay, if the liquidity that we have, or if the if the total supply is being accumulated and all that, so what is now the next action price of the Bitcoin market? And so a lot of people are actually having a lot of questions when it has to do with, and also looking at electricity factor, looking at a lot of factors surrounding this Bitcoin market, of the mining of Bitcoin and other. Now one point I will actually tell you that the Bitcoin market has actually a captivating appeal for investors who are interested in cryptocurrency, because miners are rewarded for their works with crypto token. Now that is just one interesting factor when talking about the Bitcoin mining. Now miners are actually rewarded for their work with crypto token. Now that is why investors who actually want to come in are actually interested in the cryptocurrency. That is why investors are actually more interested in the cryptocurrency when looking at it, because them actually coming on board, they give access to miners. Now miners actually come on board to actually mine, investors actually come on board to actually take, as they are rewarded for their work via crypto. Now one thing we have to know, the crypto mining is a process, it's actually difficult and expensive, and also and use. You are in a good place to actually start it. Now looking at the market himself, looking at, okay, the market is very volatile, and looking at, you might, when you start it, when you actually go about the mining process, you might say, oh, it's actually not something that I might likely want to go into, and because it might, the profit might actually not be worth. But looking at how the market is actually going to go, looking at, just imagine you have even 5 years ago or 10 years ago, you having access to Bitcoin market the way maybe it was around 15 thereabout, and right now we're actually looking at Bitcoin getting to around $60,000 in the market. So just imagine just imagine you actually just have to do some kind of a mining process and out to actually hold that a lot of Bitcoin in the market. So it is, we must consider when looking at the market space and other. Now what is Bitcoin mining? Bitcoin mining is the process of participating in the Bitcoin proof of work consensus mechanisms by which new Bitcoin enter into the circulation. I'll repeat that again. Bitcoin mining is the process of participating in Bitcoin proof of work mechanisms, consensus mechanisms, by which new Bitcoin has actually give you guys today. Now proof of work is such, or I say that mining, Bitcoin mining is a process of participating in the proof of work. Remember, the Bitcoin market is actually in a proof of work, while Ether is actually in the proof proof of stake. Now it was actually in proof of work, but they actually upgraded from proof of work to proof of stake. That apart, the reason why it actually works in the proof of work being the system to actually keep checking it and all. So it's not, it helps actually have a kind of a significant maintenance. Now it has a kind of significant maintenance. Also developing the blockchain, developing the public blockchain ledger when looking at it on the real sense and other. So all these factors are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the blockchain himself. What are they really all about? What are the different factors that we must consider when looking at the market space? What do we need to know when looking at the market space? And it is very, very important. I guess are actually getting what the course of today's section. I'm waiting for you guys as we keep that's why it is very, very important that we understand all these factors. All these factors are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market space. What is actually happening in the market space? What are the various factors that we must consider when looking at the market space and other, the market space and other. So please, before I continue, I actually want to take one or two questions before I continue into this section, please. So if you have any question whatsoever, please, you're free to actually ask on the chat box as we keep moving ahead in the course of today's session. I believe you guys are actually following me and getting what I'm actually dishing out to you guys in the course of today's session. So that is one point that we need to take note of when looking at, okay, what are the proof of work? What is what do we understand by proof of work mechanisms and other? And I will play that explanation again. Now, the Bitcoin is actually the mining process that of participating in the Bitcoin mining is the process of participating in proof of work consensus mechanisms. And apart from that, by which the new Bitcoin enters into circulation. Now, apart from this, it actually plays a form of a significant role in mining or kind of in significant role in maintaining and developing the blockchain ledger when looking at it on the real sense and on and other. So all these points are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market space, when talking about mining process and other. It is very, very important that we understand all these factors well. So mining Bitcoin require high sophisticated computers. Now, it's not just any kind of computers that you can actually likely just bring on board and say, okay, I want to use this for mine. No, it actually requires high sophisticated computers when talking about mining that are capable of executing complex capitalization problem. So it's not just any kind of it's not just any kind of computers that you actually bring on board to say, okay, I want to make use of this computer to mine and all that. It actually has to be a very high sophisticated capitalization that can actually solve a lot of problem and other, because it actually starts to do with power that and other. So if it's not actually strong enough, you can actually go about using hardware and computerized and computing power are called miners. Now those people that actually, now who do we actually call miners? Now miners are those people that actually acquire mining hardware and computing power and all that. No, now it's also a joint effort of all Bitcoin miners to that maintain the integrity of the blockchain technology and also ensure irreversible transaction. These miners are then rewarded with crypto token or Bitcoin blocks reward each time new blocks is discovered in the market and other. So all these points are actually very, very important that we need to actually take note of when talking about the Bitcoin mining. What are they really all about? How can we actually go about it? It is very, very important that we take note of all these factors when looking at the market space, when looking at how can we actually go about it, what are the various information that we need to actually take note of when looking at the Bitcoin mining and all that. All those factors are actually very, very important that we need to actually take note of when looking at the Bitcoin mining and how we can actually go about it. What are the various factors we need to consider when talking about it and all that. Now, so after the Bitcoin halving in 2010, the last Bitcoin halving that we noticed was in 2020. Each block was added and was around 2 point, let me just say 6.25 Bitcoin in circulation was actually added into the market. However, most Bitcoin markets usually receive lesser due to working together as part of the mining pool and all that. So all these are actually important point when looking at the market system, what and others. Now, how to mine interest? Now, if you're actually wondering how do you actually go about this mining process, what are the things actually involved? Now, the one thing, you need a kind of a mining hardware, a kind of a bitcoin hardware, a bitcoin wallet. You need a bitcoin wallet. You also need a mining hardware. I also need a mining software. These three are actually very, very important. Because of time, we can actually go into deep analysis about what you need, and maybe I'll actually do a kind of a separate section on this, on how you can actually go about it, how do you actually mine bitcoin at home. Now, one thing you have to understand that now it actually involves steps. There are some important steps that you have to take note of when talking about mining. Or if you say, okay, I want to mine bitcoin at home, I want to go into this process of mining, there are some basic information that are actually very, very important that we need to actually take note of. And the first one, we have to educate yourself. Now, before you begin or and all that, you make sure you understand the basic of Bitcoin mining and the hardware and software and the potential cost and risks involved in the mining process. So that is one factor that we must actually take note of before you go ahead to say, okay, I want to be involved in any form of mining process and all that. And also, the second one, you have to choose your mining hardware. That is another point. Now, you choosing your mining hardware is also one important factor that is actually very, very important. Now, deciding on the mining hardware you want to use, most miners opts for kind of application specific integrated circuits device, which are designed specifically for Bitcoin mining and also offer high efficiency when looking at the market and other. And also another one, you have to select the mining pool. Now, why it is possible to mine Bitcoin solo and other? Most individual miners join mining pool for each reward, for end to end reward. Now, the reason why most miners actually join the mining pool is just for them to actually earn reward. That reward in which they're actually earning is one of the main reasons why most miners actually join the mining pool and other. And make sure you pick a reputable mining pool that suits you best. Now, we have different kind of mining pool, and so you have to actually choose a kind of a form of a suitable mining pool that actually suits you well, that you can actually work well with when talking about the mining steps and all that. Also, you have to get a Bitcoin wallet. Now, set up a very secure Bitcoin wallet to receive and store Bitcoin that you are mining. So you have to actually set up a form of a Bitcoin wallet that you actually say, okay, like our platform example, you just copy your wallet and other, and also secure it. That you know that okay, you can actually trust it when talking about, and now looking at the security, looking at the accessibility, and you have to consider all these factors before you actually choose any form of wallet or Bitcoin wallet that you can actually choose. And also you have to install the mining software. Actually, a mining software that you actually need to install on your computer. And also now the installing the software mining, the software that is capable, that is compact with your choosing hardware. So you have to choose the kind of a software mine that's actually compatible with your choosing hardware and other. So all these factors are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when talking about the market space. What are they really all about? What are the various factors we need to consider when looking at the market space and all that? And also configure the software. So another point also is configure your software. Now you have to configure your software. Also, you have, before you actually go ahead to start mining and you have to monitor your performance, manage electricity cost and all that. Now, electricity cost is actually one important. Now you have to actually keep eye on your energy usage and cost and all that, because considering using energy efficiency hardware and exploring options for renewable energy source is possible. So now it's actually consuming large energies and other. So you need to be very, very intentional about whatever you are doing when looking at the ecosystem, when looking at whatever you're actually trying to build. And also another important one is that you have to stay informed about what you are actually building. Staying informed is one important factor that you must actually consider. Now, stay informed on the change in the Bitcoin network. Now, there might likely be a kind of the fact that okay, you're mining and other, there might likely going to be a kind of a change in the ecosystem. So that is why it is very, very important that you stay informed on the mining process, or how the market is actually going on the mining difficulties, the market condition, what is actually happening in the market, what is the news concerning the market. You have to actually stay up to date in the mine, and these factors can actually influence your mining profitability. Now, all this news, all these factors. Okay, currently the market is actually around 25,875 and thereabout, if I'm right. And also, this price factor that we notice currently in the market space, it actually has its effect. Now, if the market actually goes down, the market is actually going down, and that you are less profitable when looking at. But if the market actually goes up, you become more profitable as a miner and others. So you have to actually be very careful when going about the mining process, going into the market to mine, and you have to understand the news. The news factors also has a very large role to play when looking at the market mining, when looking at the mining process in the market and others. So all these points are actually very important that we need to take note of when looking at the market space, when looking at what is actually happening in the market, what are the various factors you must consider when looking at the market, and all these points are actually very important that we need to actually take note of when looking at the market. I believe you guys are actually following me and getting what I'm actually dishing out to you guys in the course of today's session. Please and please, along the way, if you have any question whatsoever, you're free to ask on the chat box, in which justice is going to be done as we keep moving ahead in the course of today's session. Please and please, if you have any question whatsoever as we keep moving ahead, you can keep asking on the chat box as we keep moving ahead in the course of today's session. So all these are actually important points that we need. And also another one also is that, and also another factor we must also consider is you have to consider regulations. Now, regulation also has a key factor to play. When I'm beware of local regulation and legal requirements for cryptocurrency mining in your area. That is one point that we must consider. You have to also consider that also. Also, secure your setup. You have to actually secure your setup. Now, each of your mining setup is secured from physical and digital threats. Protect your hardware, software, and wallets is a strong security practice. Now, you learn a strong security practice when talking about the markets, when talking about mining and others. So, Bitcoin at home can be complex and kind of resource intensive endeavor. When talking about it, it's important to carefully research and consider factors such as hardware costs, electricity expenses, potential earning, and also the involving nature of the industry. Additionally, given increasing competitive in the mining process, it might be more challenging for individuals miners to achieve profitable compared to large operators in the ecosystem. So all these are actually all these are actually important points that we need to actually take note of when talking about the mining process. What is the market saying? How can we actually take control of the market? Additionally, given the increase of competitiveness in the market and all that, it might be more challenging for individual miners to achieve profitable compared to large operations when looking at the market space and all that. So all these are actually very important. All these are actually very important that we need to actually take note of when looking at the mining process. What are they really all about? How can we actually go about it? And so the next one I'll talk about right now is what is mining, what is Bitcoin farming. What do we understand by Bitcoin farming in the market? What do we understand by Bitcoin farming in the now? Bitcoin farming is also refers to as Bitcoin mining. Yeah, Bitcoin farm. When you hear the word, a lot of people say, okay, what, I've not heard the word Bitcoin farming. What do you mean by Bitcoin farming? What do you mean by this? What do you mean by this? Now, when you hear the word Bitcoin farming is also the same thing as the Bitcoin mining. Also, it refers to as a process of validating and recording transaction on the blockchain while earning a new Bitcoin as a reward. I'll repeat that again. Bitcoin farming refers to the process of validating and recording transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain while earning new Bitcoin as a reward. So miners use powerful computerization and also solve complex mathematical puzzle while confirming and securing transaction on the network, which is one important factor that we must consider when looking at the ecosystem and others. So this process requires significant amount of computerization power and energy to complete the mining puzzle. And also the first stage is to get is to the first stage to get is to add new blocks to the transaction and all that, and on the blockchain, and the reward, and also is rewarded with a certain number of newly created bitcoin. And apart from that, this is how new bitcoin are mined and also introduced in circulation when looking at the market space and all that. So all these points are actually very very important that we need to take note of when looking at the ecosystem. What are they really all about? And so how does this bitcoin farming works? Now we have what we call transaction verification, we have proof of work, we have adding blocks, adding a block, then we have reward, we have difficult readjustment, we have decentralization, then we have halving, then we have what we call as halving. So all this, now this halving actually happens, now let me explain this halving. Now we were saying halving, now this halving actually happens every 4 years, and the reward is actually given to miners for adding a block, is in a kind of adding, for adding a block to halving, is halving another. So actually adding a block is actually known as halving, and this event is actually called halving, and it's designed to control the total supply of Bitcoin. Now, someone actually says that okay, when the total supply of Bitcoin is actually gotten, now is it that they're actually going to add more blocks into this? Now, as a result, new rate of Bitcoin creation decreases over time. Now, because of this halving, the new rate of this Bitcoin creation actually decreases over time. Now, in essence, Bitcoin halving or Bitcoin farming is a process by which transactions are confirmed and new Bitcoin are created and introduced in circulation, and which is one important factor that we must consider when looking at the market space and all that. So it is very very important that we take note of all these factors when talking about the market space, when talking about what the market is actually really all about, how can we actually go about it. And so what is now the future? Let's we are gradually coming to an end of today's section. I believe you guys have gained a lot from what I've actually shared with you guys when talking about mining. What are they really all about? How can we actually go about it? What are the various factors we need to consider when talking about mining? And what are the various factors we need to consider when talking about mining? How can we actually go about it and all that? So it is very, very important that we understand all these factors I'm actually talking about are actually very, very important that we need to consider, that we need to take note of when talking about mining, when talking about how we can actually go about it. What are they really all about? It's very, very important that we take note of all these factors. All these factors are actually very, very important that we need to take note of when talking about the market space, when talking about how the market is going, what are the areas of interest we need to take note of when talking about the mining process and other. Please, if you're listening to me and you're yet to follow my profile, please kindly do follow my profile so that whenever I'm live, you will be signified live whenever I'm live, and you miss out on any section as we keep moving ahead in the course of today's section. Please, if you're yet to follow my profile and are listening to me, please kindly do follow my profile so that whenever I'm live, you will be signified live and you miss out on any section as we keep moving ahead in the course of today's section. So these are all important factors that we must consider when looking at the market space and all that. Also, let's try to talk about the future. What is now the future of mining? Now, the future of Bitcoin mining is subjected to several factors and trends that might actually shape the market and as concerned about the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining growth and grow as growth grown to miners actually continue to grow, and there are likely going to be an increased focus in the market to improve the energy efficiency, and miners and also the industry as a whole adopt more sustainable, are actually looking at actually adopting more sustainable energy source, and also apart from energy source and also technologies to migrate development environmental concern when talking about mining and others. So all this are actually very very important when talking about the market space, when talking about what is actually happening in the market space and all that. Okay, our time is actually fast spent. Let's just come into conclusion of today's section. And please, if you're actually listening to me and you're here to follow my profile, please kindly do follow my profile, which is actually very very important. You can go back and actually listen to this section again, in which you will gain more insight about what we are talking about when talking about Bitcoin mining. And so overall, the future of Bitcoin mining will be shaping by the accumulation of technology advancements, environmental consideration, and also regulatory development, market dynamic, and also the broader evolution of cryptocurrency ecosystem. It is likely that the industry will continue to adapt and innovate to meet each challenges and opportunity as the day arises. Another, which is one important point that we need to actually take note of when talking about the Bitcoin mining. What are they really all about? How can we actually go about it when looking at it on the real sense? And so all these points are actually very, very important that we need to all take note of when talking about the Bitcoin mining. What are they really all about? How can we actually go about them? What are the various factors we need to consider when talking about Bitcoin mining? And all these points are actually very, very important that we need to actually take note of when talking about Bitcoin mining. How can we actually go about them? And also, that's all what we'll be talking about in today's session. I believe you guys have gained a lot from what I've actually shared with you guys in the course of today's section. Please, if you're listening to me and you're yet to follow my profile, please kindly do follow my profile so that whenever I'm live, you will be signified live whenever I'm live, and you miss out on any section as we keep moving ahead in the course of today's session. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for everyone that actually connected live with us. We'll be live again tomorrow for another interesting conversation where we'll come together and learn a lot deeper analysis about the market, what we need to take note of the market, how can we actually go about it, and others. So that is all what we'll be talking about in today's session. See you same time tomorrow for another interesting conversation where we'll come together and learn a lot about the market space and other. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining us live. See you same time tomorrow for another interesting conversation. Bye guys, and enjoy the rest of the day. Stay best guys, and see you tomorrow.